Josh Piterman, good to have you back at noise11.com.
Thanks so much for having me, Paul. Thanks, mate.
And more new music to talk about, which is pretty exciting. Now, this is a four-track EP, and well, to describe it, we're going from basically classical opera all the way through to even a Coldplay song on here. I don't think you can get any more diverse than that in a bunch of four tracks.
Yeah, that's a very good point. We've also got I Want to Spend My Lifetime Loving You, which is from the Mask of Zorro film in the 90s that Antonio Banderas and Catherine Zeta-Jones started, but the track was a Tina Arena Mark Anthony track. So that's also pretty poppy. But I think what musically binds them is that so much inspiration was taken from filmic music. So Steve Anderson, who produced it, and people might know from his work with Kylie and Westlife and Steps and various other pop artists. He's got a massive penchant for the filmic world, Morricone and Horner and Hans Zimmer and stuff. So those great film composers were a lot of inspiration for this, and sort of create a sound that is connected between the four songs. And then thematically, what connects them is they all tap into a different idea of love. So my version of Fix You is very much a man staring into the mirror of himself and looking into himself and how to love himself more, how to fix his issues and inside his own heart and his own soul. And then Spend My Lifetime Loving You, the inspiration is sort of souls that could find each other in any time, any space, any generation, and still find love. And then Caruso is, quite an operatic favourite, or has become. It was an Italian pop tune, but since being covered by Pavarotti and Bocelli, it's sort of like an opera favourite almost, and that's just your typical sort of Italian heartbreak song. And then the final one is the love theme from Cinema Paradiso, which was a great film, and it's an Ennio Morricone piece. Very successful film in the 90s, won a lot of awards, the Cannes Film Festival. And that's more, it's also highly romantic, but does really discuss the idea of whether love exists in a realm of magic or just in a realm of reality. And I think when you're in a relationship, you're always dancing between those two things of, just the fundamental, normalness of life that you share together, and the magic and the romance that you share together. So there's things that really bind these four songs too, even though they seem somewhat so polarizing across the spectrum of music.
Well, let's talk about Caruso for a start, because, like as you say, that's been sung by Pavarotti. You're about to sing a song that Pavarotti has sung before. I would imagine you'd have to almost train for that as an athlete to be able to do a song like that justice.
I've been singing Caruso for a long time. That was one of my solo songs when I was with the 10 Tenors way back in 2008, 2009. And so it's a song that has, played a huge part of my the seminal part of my career. And I've always loved it and always wanted to record it. I always wanted to do something different to it. It has that very much that, very traditional Neapolitan feel normally. Like a very Neapolitan. And I just didn't want it to be like that. I wanted to sound like it belonged in a Bond film, So rather than saying, I've got to do it justice to Pavarotti, when I do sing Nessun Dorma, which I've done loads of times now and have done it under, seeming pressure, whatever that word means, on Australia Day Live concerts. And I never feel like I have to be like Pavarotti, no one is ever going to be Pavarotti. He was the most extraordinary tenor voice I think this world has ever seen. It's not even once in a generation. It's once in the history of the planet. And so I try not to go, how can I be in Pavarotti's lane and, do it a bit like him. I just go, I'll stick in my own lane because, there's no point trying to be like someone else, especially a man like him.
Yeah. I guess the template of diversity crosses over into what you did with the album, because that had a few pop tracks on it, Wicked Game, the Chris Isaak song, Iris, Goo Goo Dolls, and Burn For You, the one done by Farnham. So, you are known to go back to the pop world, aren't you?
Yeah, I think that's, because I listen to so much pop and rock, really, Paul, like that's, I'm like everyone else. I've got Running Up That Hill on repeat at the moment. And I'm really into, the new Harry Styles album, and we'll listen to some really modern stuff and then go all the way back to, lots of 70s and 60s and 50s stuff, and Fleetwood plays on repeat. So, pop and rock world is a huge part of what I love. And the difference in this is, with Coldplay, I guess my sound for that is slightly more, slightly edging on some classical stuff, but still a bit poppy-ish for me, until the end of the song, where I really got some inspiration from Moulin Rouge, the movie, where the moon sings to Nicole Kidman and Ewan McGregor, and so, in Italian, while they're singing Your Song, by Elton John. And so I've done a little thing there, which I'm looking forward to people hearing. I hope they enjoy that. But I Want to Spend My Lifetime Loving You was when Stephen really challenged me to open up a much more poppier sound and contemporary sound than I've ever tried to explore. The duets with a woman called Amy Atkinson, who's a big West End star. She was in the original production of Six, which is, I know, touring around Australia, and she plays the Julia Roberts role in Pretty Woman, the musical. And she's a great sort of pop music theatre singer. And so I sort of had to really go out of my comfort zone a lot with that. And I'm really sort of proud of where I've gone vocally. It's far more commercial sound than I've ever done. So compared to the long-winded way, compared to the old album, where I was, singing pop tunes in a more classical tone, I'm actually stepping into quite a pop realm. So when people listen to Caruso or Cinema Paradiso, which sound very operatic, and then listen to I Want to Spend My Lifetime Loving You, it almost sounds like two voices at times. So that's new for me.
Mm. With Steve Anderson, as you mentioned, we've talked a bit about his pop background, but he's also worked with people like McCartney. He's been with Sting. He's worked with David Bowie. How much of those discussions did you have with him?
I've got to say, I think their discussions more over a beer. I haven't discussed Sting and Bowie with Steve. I have discussed Westlife and Steps, and but a lot of our discussion is around Aussies. He's also worked with Delta, and obviously I said Kylie, and I think Holly Valance at some stage. So he just loves Aussie. So most of our conversations is sort of, and he loves Australia. It's sort of about Australianism when we're talking about music and the music world. He just adores Aussie. So maybe that's why I got a gig working with him, because I feel so humbled to get to work with a guy like that. He comes from, I mean, it's, as you're mentioning all those names, and it's like such years of really very, very rich music history. So I'm not even in those conversations. Well, I certainly don't feel like I'm in those conversations. So just to get to work with a guy like that is pretty cool. And the sound that he's created is like he's epic. He's a genius. So yeah, very, very grateful for that.
We went into the pandemic, and we came out of the pandemic, and either side of that is bookheads for you. You've got Phantom of the Opera on the West End going in, Phantom of the Opera in Australia coming out. Tell me about the experience of being the Phantom in London. I mean, that must be the ultimate stage to stand on to be that character.
Yeah, it's really cool. I just popped past the theatre the other day, and with the upcoming production at the Opera House, beckoning just to just literally stand outside and look at it, and stood there for like 10 minutes and just recalling all sorts of great on stage, off stage memories, great conversations with people. The thing about that production was that it had people who were in it, both on stage and off stage, who'd been there since like 1990. Like people who'd done the show literally tens of thousands of times. And so you can't feel that like you're walking into, a Guinness Book of Records sort of histrionic version of Phantom of the Opera. The beautiful thing is it felt fresh every night. It didn't feel, archaic in any way. It just felt like it was just so grounded and so stooped in a very, very special music theatre history. And there's so many other little elements that I love talking about. The dressing room I was in, not only was a dressing room that Michael Crawford, spent those years in, and there's this beautiful 3-portrait painting of him that sort of looks at you as you sit there waiting to go on. It's like the spirit of Michael lives on. But it was also Laurence Olivier's apartment for a period of time. And, you're just like touching the carpet going, give me a bit of Olivier, touching the painting, give me a little bit of Crawford here before you go on. Like it's so etched in great history. And I always felt that, and always felt like I was surrounded by something very, very special. And to go out there and to play Phantom, look, I want to say that the cheesy thing about it, being on that stage and in that place, but once I'm in there, honestly, it could have been anywhere, Paul. Like, it was such a transcending experience playing the Phantom. Once you're in that mask and on that stage and in that world of the Paris Opera House and his lair underground, it is a very transcending experience. And I got very lost in the character. And so, I have to check out to remember where I am, for God's sakes, because it's the character that, for me, has felt most like home in all the roles that I've got to do over my career over the last 15 years or so. So I just love him. So I wasn't, it closed, my journey in London finished early because of COVID. So I didn't balk at the opportunity when granted one to get to play it again at the Opera House, and then back home in Melbourne for a while coming up. It's like the biggest gift ever. And just looking at that theatre the other day, standing at the front, it just got me so excited about getting to share it again and getting to live that role again, because I love it so much.
Well, that run that you're just talking about there for Sydney and Melbourne of Phantom of the Opera, how different will that be from the traditional theatre role that you've been playing in London?
Well, it is a new production. It's directed by Lawrence Connor, who's a very famous London, West End Broadway director of musicals. I actually caught up with him the other day. He directed the new production of Les Mis that people would have seen in Australia some years ago with Simon Gleeson and Hayden T. And this production of Phantom is, I don't think it doesn't take it out of its era, but what it does is it really humanizes the character. I feel like it's a more visceral experience and maybe less of an ethereal sort of, magical world, and a very real world with real people. And the Phantom is a very real man with real flaws and real issues. And I think that connects people to him and to everyone in the show even more. We feel a lot of empathy for the Phantom, even though he's a murderous villain. But I think in this one, it might be even more because of the human nature of it. I mean, just to say one little thing, I recall, the scene after Music of the Night, I'd always go back to the organ and, he'd be working on some music for an opera that appears later in the show. In this production, you see him quite literally in the mirror with, the version of Dettol that was used at the time, like tending to his, open, painful wounds, and that how sore they always are, that thing. So, there's these sort of differences that just humanize the man, and I'm really looking forward to exploring this direction of it. The thing is, it's still Phantom of the Opera. It still has the same storyline, the great songs, like all the things that people love. It's just taken into something that is, I think, a more visceral experience.
Well, looking forward to Phantom of the Opera. We've got Caruso out. I was only thinking the other day, that time we talked it for the 10 tenors must have been, 12 or 13 years ago now?
More, mate. I finished there in 2009. So,
wow.
I reckon it's 14 years ago. Yeah. Crazy, right?
That's unbelievable. Where did that time go, Josh?
I don't know, mate.
All right. Well, look forward to seeing you down here in Phantom and the EP for everybody to stream. They don't even have to go to a theatre to get that one.
Thanks, mate. Thanks so much. All the best.